Okay, so the similarities we're going to find the similarities on these truck intake manifolds we're going to find is that between the 4.7 truck intake manifold PowerTech from Mopar and to our CPT5 intake manifold from Castro Motorsports. Now the first thing we have as a similarity is that they're both electronic fuel injection, so there's no need for carburetor systems whatsoever. Second of all, similar to the first reason, you can use the same stock fuel rails and same fuel injectors for your intake manifold. The third similarity you can do as well is that they're both going to be driven by a throttle cable. Because we also have an adapter bracket for our new intake manifold as well, for your bigger throttle bodies, or some of these is even a 72mm throttle body, but it's usually not going to be big enough for the intake manifold we carry now. The differences, though, we have a few differences. The first is actually the entrance and where the throttle bodies are to be located, sitting on top of the intake manifold, the 4.7, and then also inside the intake manifold for the 4.7 we have here for the CPT5. The second difference we also have here is actually the size of the throttle bodies, at least for the entrance for the throttle bodies as well. Because you actually see here we do measurements. For the stock throttle body entrance for the intake manifold is a maximum of 72mm, compared to our new throttle entrance for our intake manifold is at 95mm, which is actually a 27mm difference. If you think about the volume variant in theory is supposed to give in into the intake manifold, obviously to produce more power. Another difference we have here is that we have the measurements on these stock intake manifold boards compared to the new intake manifold on CPT5. On the original PowerTech 4.7 liter PowerTech has an intake port runner. The runners on intake manifold ports hold an opening of only 1 5/8 of an inch. Not very best compared to our new intake manifold, which comes with a so-called full port job, we call it, gasket matched, with the intake manifold runners showing out at 2 inches of the wideness. And for the length of this one on the stock would be 1 1/4, while our other one, on our CPT5, the intake manifold on the length will actually do 1 3/5. So basically more efficient airflow to come into your through your intake manifold to your cylinder heads as well. The next thing to discuss, you can see as well, obviously from the picture, from the look of it, we have larger runners on our intake manifold. Higher flow, however, that theory was that the idea when we're creating a CPT5 intake manifold was not only just to have a bigger throttle body to put more volume of air into the intake manifold, we'll also get it closer to our cylinder heads to ram more air into the cylinder heads to make more power. Obviously more air, more spark, more fuel gives it more horsepower. The next thing the differences we're going to see here is we're going to see in the power gains. Yes, you're going to gain more power on the end of 45 horsepower and 30 to 35 torque for our kit. However, the disadvantage is it's not going to have more of the low end power as compared to your stock truck intake manifold for the 4.7. Now, you do see a gain on the CPT5 intake manifold. However, you're not going to be seeing it until the mid to high end range between 3,500 RPM and 6,000 RPM. Which is actually good for certain people who want to use certain race applications. If you're going to use like swapping into a Mopar vehicle, a Mopar rally car, such like a Dodge Avenger, or even like some people are doing right now, it's like they call it the PT Cruiser from Chrysler. So if you're going to be using a top end cam for the duration of at least a 212 or higher, we wouldn't recommend the CPT5 intake manifold. We would want you to go back to your truck intake manifold if you want to get the low end torque with the higher end range. Now, if you're running a duration of 210 or less, this is what we recommend the CPT intake manifold to help you out from the mid range, from the mid to top end range of power. Lastly, the things we want to talk about is pricing. Now, some guys on the 4.7 scene, if it doesn't matter if the Ram, Dakota, Durango, or Jeep Cherokees, it all comes out the price for the 4.7 bills. Now, the 4.7 intake manifold you can buy for like 20 to 25 bucks your junkyard compared to the new intake manifold, which our kit comes out at $500 for the whole kit, including fuel injectors, fuel rails, throttle body with adapter bracket for your throttle cable as well. Now, as I said earlier, it all depends on what kind of applications you're looking for your drivability. Usually for your fuel economy, miles to street, or full out performance. However, there is some advantages we can give for the new intake manifold, which was proven in our dyno and for the driving efficiency. For fuel economy as well, since we have more efficient power, you actually have air running into the intake manifold to the cylinder heads quicker and sooner with less throttle. Obviously, if there's more volume of air from a bigger throttle body. We gained a height of average of 1.6 miles to the gallon better. But obviously, with our, like I said earlier, with our new results on the dyno, we gained 45 wheel horsepower and 30 to 35 pound-feet of torque, depending on which application you're using. Now, it all comes into any guys who are using the 4.7C. It all depends on which kind of application you're going to use. Do you want to go out for low end power for truck or towing, or you want to go for a top end and all-out performance? So it all depends on what you want to get in between what your application is for your vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's a Dodge Dakota, Dodge Ram, or the Ram 1500s, Jeep Cherokees, Dodge Durangos. It all depends on what you want in your scene as far as drivability. So, also the last difference I want to show you guys is the sizes of the throttles. Now this throttle body is a 68 millimeter throttle body comes stock in 4.7 power text with a dot on Mopar C. 68 millimeters. To our massive, monstrous 95 millimeter throttle body that comes with an adapter kit for the throttle cable for our intake manifold as well. Large, you can see, obviously the volume and the size, pretty big difference. So, if you guys are interested in having a performance build on your application for the 4.7, you're looking for top end power, our CPT5 is a way to go. So, unless you want to go to your towing applications for low end power, you also have your truck intake manifold, depending on which budget you have. So thank you guys for watching this video. My name is Castro, the owner of Castro Motorsports. We'll get back to you soon.